I've been playing Springtrap, like an obsessive amount of Springtrap. I already have more time on him than over a quarter of the roster, and plan on trying to get him to that top spot during my Prestige 100 grind. I currently have him at Prestige 55 after saving my blood points ever since the Castlevania chapter release. With having him at such a high prestige level, I have stacked a ton of his add-ons, and thus I've gotten to use all of them. What I have for you here is the ultimate guide, breaking down all of Springtrap's add-ons, the playstyles they work best with, how strong they are, and even some fun build suggestions. We'll be starting with his common add-ons and working our way to his Vicerals, explaining what they do in as much detail as possible using two different tier list formats. One will be ranking the add-ons by strength, and the other will be categorizing them by what playstyles they work best in. Starting off with Springtrap's common add-ons, they're all fairly straightforward to understand and very simple to use, which makes them great for starting out with the killer whether you're a brand new player or a longtime veteran picking up the killer for the first time. Starting with Rotten Pizza, this doubles the duration of the killer instinct that you get from the axe's area of effect. Base kit, the axe's AoE lasts 15 seconds, and as long as the survivor is inside, they're revealed by these spiderweb looking blips known as Killer Instinct. Base kit, they'll be revealed for about 2 blips, and Pizza will increase this to 4 blips. The purpose of this Killer Instinct is to make missing shots less punishing by giving you a scan on the survivor's location through a wall, so that way you can continue the chase, but it also allows you to use it as a sort of mini wall hacks at certain tiles, or in maps that he may struggle to actually use the ranged attack on. It's not super useful, nor is it super strong, and can work with playstyles where you're specifically using the axe's AoE as a debuff to survivors or for wall hacks and chase as an M1 killer if you aren't confident with hitting your axe. This gives it a rather low ranking, but if you're new to the killer or struggling with him, there's no shame in using it. Restaurant Menu is one of his best add-ons and definitely his strongest common add-on. This reduces the time it takes to recall your axe after missing a throw by 20%, which adds up to 1.4 seconds saved. It makes it take only 5.6 seconds to recall your axe instead of the usual 7. Very straightforward and easy to use regardless of your skill level, and works in any playstyle that uses the axe, whether it's actually going for hits or just using the AoE, which gives it a high placement on the list. Help Wanted Add is getting put into its own tier. Not because it's bad, but because it's a learning add-on. It just shows you the trajectory of the axe while you're actively aiming it, showing you where it'll land after you let go of the throw or if it's going to get stuck in terrain. This is great for both brand new players and players that want to practice going for shots over high walls, though it isn't necessary and can even get distracting once you get the muscle memory down. Our final common add-on is Greasy Paper Plate. This makes it take 15% longer for the survivor to remove the axe from their back. Removing the axe from yourself normally takes 8 seconds, and a teammate removing it from your back takes 5. With Paper Plate, this becomes 9.2 seconds for yourself and 5.75 for a teammate. This add-on is interesting because on its own it only really does 2 things for you. It makes getting grabs on the survivors more consistent, and also makes it so that way they can't force you into being 110 move speed if you don't want to be. As long as you're forcing them to play around pallets and windows rather than holding W against you, it'll keep the axe off of you and keep you at 115 since the bar resets when they drop a pallet or vault. Those reasons aren't very strong on their own, which is why Paper Plate will have a low rating. However, when combined with other add-ons, it starts to shine, making it not completely useless. We'll get into those add-ons later. As for playstyle, this add-on only works if you're actively hitting your axe, so it's not as flexible as our previous ones. Springtrap's uncommon add-ons tend to lean into the same camp as his commons, where they're easy to use and understand for any level of play, but also very obviously lean into more specific playstyles. Probably the most straightforward of the bunch is Streamers. This add-on makes his teleport speed between doors 20% faster, which reduces the time it takes to teleport from 3 seconds to 2.4, which saves a little over half a second. This can work in any build with any playstyle, but since it only works with his security doors, it's best used in either a stealthy playstyle or a gen control focused build. Never a bad choice, but not so strong that you need to run it all the time. Security Guard's badge increases the duration of the undetectable status that you get from teleporting by 50%. This means you'll have no terror radius or red stain for 30 whole seconds as opposed to the usual 20. It's worth noting that you also can't have your aura revealed by perks and add-ons during this time. However, If survivors reveal you using the security cameras, they are still able to see your aura. This add-on is very useful for stealth-focused gameplay, especially on indoor maps or on maps where dar spawns are somewhat far from the generators like the swamp or the red forest maps. It's a consistently good pick that's always useful, but not a must-have similar to streamers, so they'll be ranked similarly. Ripped Curtain is an add-on that seems a lot better than it actually is. This add-on inflicts Mangled, which makes survivors heal 25% slower, and Hemorrhage, which makes survivor healing progress regress if they are not being healed. It also makes pools of blood drop more frequently, which can be useful for tracking. These status effects last for 60 seconds. So what exactly is the problem, you might be asking? Well, even though the add-on says when an axe hits a survivor, this effect does not apply when downing a survivor with your power, only when you injure them with it. It does also apply if you hit a survivor into the deep wound state while they have endurance, since the axe embeds in their back, so it's not completely awful, but it's not as strong as you would think. It is an anti-heal add-on at the end of the day, just not very good, and can use a buff, whether it's the duration being increased or just activating when downing somebody with the power. Party Hat is a weird add-on. It makes the axe's AoE grow to 250% of its normal size over the course of 3 seconds, but the AoE disappears 50% faster, which makes it only last 7.5 seconds instead of 15. This actually allows you to deny the effect of the Foxy's Hook add-on from survivors, or force the debuff effect of Chica's Bib more easily. It also makes using Endo CPU much easier, and gives more consistent wall hack info than even Rotten Pizza. This add-on takes a surprising amount of finesse to actually use effectively, and only works with playstyles where you're going out of your way to miss your axe tosses, making it not super strong nor worth using unless you're dedicated to making it work. Next, we have one of the worst add-ons in Springtrap's arsenal, Office Phone. I love Office Phone, but I would never say that it's good or worth using outside of very specific builds. What it does is make survivors within 24 meters of a survivor that has your axe in their back become inflicted with the Oblivious status effect, which makes them unable to hear your heartbeat, and the Broken status effect, which makes them unable to heal. It also shows them the aura of the axe while within range, so they know where that teammate is, and even gives them a buff by letting them remove the axe from their teammate 50% faster, making it only a 2.5 second interaction. This is a very complicated add-on with a lot going on, so let's break down the good and the bad. Firstly, the good. If the survivor that has the axe in their back runs by teammates that are injured, you get a ton of useful advantages and info. You'll know there are injured survivors nearby that can't hear your heartbeat, and that allows you to make some sneaky plays, or just have good info to prevent things like flashlight, pallet, or sabotage saves. It also makes it so if they're actively healing, their heal progress is paused temporarily. If you have perks that inflict Hemorrhage or Ripped Curtain, their heal progress will also regress. Now for the bad. This is extremely impractical to use and very difficult to get value out of without specific niche scenarios with very unoptimized builds. Since it also reveals the aura of the person with the axe, it technically by proxy reveals your location, making the Oblivious pointless without a very specific perk like Hex Face the Darkness. Since Oblivious survivors can't hear the terror radius and Face the Darkness only works when they're outside of your terror radius, it gives Phone a niche use case. But you could also just run Security Guard's badge or Oblivious perks. Not to mention, it makes taking out the axe faster, so you're forced to run it with Greasy Paper Plate, which already isn't a great add-on. There's one other add-on it works with that I enjoy, being the Celebrate poster, but we'll discuss that when we get to it. This add-on is garbage, don't use it. Springtrap's rare add-ons are where we start getting into more playstyle defining add-ons, as well as some of the more powerful ones that he has in his kit. These are best used by those already comfortable with the base power and lower rarity add-ons, as they transform the way his kit works a bit too much, and could end up actually forming bad habits, or messing with your game sense and muscle memory. This isn't meant to scare you from using them. Just know if you don't have a lot of them, you shouldn't get too comfortable with using them every game, because when you run out, you will feel so lost without them. Purple Guy Drawing is a chased-focused add-on that rewards you for landing your axe hits. It makes it so survivors that have the axe in their back have their auras revealed for 3 seconds when doing the following: a fast or medium vault on a window, fast vaulting a pallet, fast vaulting out of a locker, and also into lockers for a split second before the aura block that they naturally have activates. This even includes silent vaults from survivor perks like Cut Loose and Quick and Quiet, which isn't the case with the killer perk I'm All Ears that has a very similar effect. It also reveals their aura for 6 seconds if they remove the axe from themselves. Both of these reveals don't have a range limit and can have their durations increased by the perk Lethal Pursuer. They can also have their effects blocked by perks like Boon Shadow Step and Distortion on the survivor side. The aura reveal allows you to line up another shot if you recall the axe after the rushed action, and even after they remove it, or it can allow you to mind game the survivors during the chase while you're able to see them. It's a good add-on and a fun one to use, especially when paired with Greasy Paper Plate or Celebrate Poster. It's not always guaranteed value, but it's fairly consistent. Freddy's Hat is an add-on I actively despise using and think is one of his worst add-ons. It doubles the weight of the axe, making it fall much sooner after throwing it. This makes it not go as high or as far, but the faster fall speed actually makes hitting survivors crouching behind obstacles or on the other side of walls easier and more consistent in some cases. It makes it so you don't always have to waste time backing up when lining up orbital shots over walls, which is a nice upside to it. However, it cuts your effective range in half from 16 meters to 8, and very obviously messes with your muscle memory because of that. It can also make activating AoE effect add-ons a little faster since the axe hits the ground sooner, but I don't see that as a reason to run it when you can just look down. You can learn to play with it, and even prefer it over the base kit, but in doing so, you're actively limiting yourself to always having one add-on slot, as the other has to be this add-on, and that destroys a lot of the build synergies that he has. Because of this, I'm actually going to put it in the same tier as Help Wanted Add, since they're both personal preference add-ons, but Freddy's Hat is not one I would recommend, especially for those new to the character. Foxy's Hook is one of Springtrap's best add-ons, and is very easy to use since it's an add-on that's effect comes from the axe's AoE. It gives any player, survivor or killer, that walks into the range 7% haste that lingers for 3 seconds once they exit the range. You might see this and think, why would I want to make this survivor 7% faster? However, when you consider that it's when you throw and miss your axe, you're not just moving 7% faster from Foxy's Hook, but also another 5% faster since you don't have your axe equipped. This makes you a 122% move speed killer, while the survivors will move at 107. You can also throw it in a way where only you get the benefit from the speed boost, or just play them as if you were going for hits and use it to catch up to them when you miss your axes. It allows you to play loops in a different way with the speed, it helps you catch up when you miss, and even if they try to use it against you, you still get value and benefits from it due to you naturally being faster than them. This means you can force pallets down sooner, for example, or even switch targets to another nearby survivor you might have seen. It's almost always a good and useful option, even with its potential to backfire against you. It's super fun and easy to use, while also pairing well with add-ons like Restaurant Menu, Party Hat, and Endo CPU, giving it a high ranking on the list. Next, we have a similar add-on that isn't as good. Chica's Bib makes survivors within the axe's AoE exhausted, and this effect lingers for 5 seconds once they leave it. This is good at extending exhaustion durations by pausing the timer if you already have perks like Mindbreaker or Blood Echo, and can even be used to outright deny some exhaustion perks used mid-chase like Lithe, Overcome, or Dramaturgy by throwing it slightly ahead of the survivor or at an object close to them. Being able to prevent Dead Hard is also possible, but more difficult than the perks listed prior. Surprisingly, the best use of this add-on is to counter head-on, since you can throw the axe at a locker if you think that the survivor's inside. The Killer Instinct will reveal them, Chica's Bib will exhaust them, and you'll get a free down whether they stay in the locker or attempt to jump out and you grab them. It can even let you counter Iron Will if you throw your axe at a wall that you can't hear the survivor on the other side of, since the perk doesn't work while they're exhausted. However, this add-on unfortunately doesn't help with dealing with Sprint Burst, which is an exhaustion perk that counters Springtrap the hardest. Not to mention, if they for whatever reason don't have exhaustion perks, or even if they do but they're also running the perk Vigil, this add-on is completely ineffective, and you'd never know why, which is why I place it on the lower end of the list. For the final rare add-on, we have what is by far Springtrap's strongest add-on, and one that I expect to be nerfed or reworked in the future due to how powerful it currently is. Bonnie's Guitar Strings allows you to see the progress of generators based on the color of their aura while you're in a security door. This does have a downside of reducing the duration of your undetectable after teleporting by 50%, which cuts it clean in half, making it last 10 seconds. The fact that you can simply jump in a door to find where people are and what gen they're doing is insanely powerful. and this effect becomes even stronger with gen regression perks. Using this with Pop Goes the Weasel, Call of Brine, Eruption, Overcharge, Dead Man Switch, Hex Ruin, or even things like Machine Learning and Nowhere to Hide is very oppressive against even very good survivor teams. This is an add-on so strong and easy to use that you may begin to actually rely on it and actively make your game sense and macro knowledge worse. If you're simply just looking for the strongest stuff and trying to play to win every match, feel free to just slap this on. Springtrap's Very Rares are his most transformative series of add-ons. They all have a gimmick to them that requires you to build around them in a specific way and change the way that you play them entirely. These are some of the most fun add-ons he has to offer, but none of them are very easy to use unless you're already fairly comfortable with playing the killer. Starting us off is probably the simplest of the Very Rare add-ons with Loot Bag. This add-on blocks the exit gates for survivors that have the axe in their back and anyone within 12 meters of that survivor. This add-on is literally only useful in the endgame, and thus should only be used in endgame builds, or with an endgame perk or two in your build. It can guarantee an extra hook or even a kill after the gates have been opened, as long as you land your shot similar to a perk like No Way Out, and when paired with something like Blood Warden, Rancor, or Noed, you can make some insane comebacks using this bad boy. However, it's not super practical, as you won't always get to the endgame, and even if you do, sometimes they just won't put you in a situation where you're able to use it. Very funny, but also very niche, unfortunately. Endo CPU is similar to Foxy's hook in that it gives you a buff when you're in the axe's area of effect. It lets you kick pallets, breakable walls, and generators 25% faster while within the AoE, and the effect lingers for 5 seconds after leaving it. When paired with perks like Brutal Strength, Fire Up, or Enduring, this lets you chew through pallets very quickly. However, survivors like to greed pallets against Springtrap due to how strong his zoning is, so you might not get much use out of it all the time. When used with Foxy's hook and even Party Hat in a match where the survivors play in a way that allows you to use it, the value you'll get is actually pretty good. Not a bad add-on, just not super strong. This next one is my favorite add-on in the entire game. Celebrate Poster absolutely rules. When a survivor has the axe in their back, every player, both survivor and killer, within 32 meters of that survivor gain a 12% movement speed boost and vault 20% faster. This add-on is absolutely bonkers, pure chaos, and stupid fun to use. It's similar to Foxy's hook, where you actually gain the 12% and the additional 5% base kit for not having the axe in your inventory, making it actually give you 17% haste. Using this in tandem with other haste perks like batteries included or unbound, you go so fast that it guarantees grabs at times. The 20% vault speed also stacks with vault speed perks, like Superior Anatomy and Bamboozle, making chases lightning fast by opening up entirely new ways to play the chase. It shines the most when paired with Greasy Paper Plate, so they can't force the axe back into your hand, or Office Phone, since the speed will make them more likely to run into their teammates, allowing you to cause even more chaos. Now, since all players receive this speed, this does allow them to use it altruistically, like to take protection hits or go for risky flashlight blinds. However, these are things you can play around once you learn the add-on. It's hard to tell just how strong it is, but I personally think it's one of his better ones. Maybe once survivors learn how to use it against him, it'll become weaker, but for now it's one of my personal favorites. Now, onto another one of his strongest add-ons, we have Access Panel. This add-on has a lot of moving parts to it, so I'll break it down piece by piece, explaining each effect. The first and most important, straightforward thing it does is reveal survivors to you via Killer Instinct when they're within 4 meters of any security door and you are aiming your axe. This means if they're on a generator that's close to a door, you'll see them on that gen. If they spawn by a door at the start of the match, you can TP straight to them and have a chase immediately. If they're using the cameras, you'll see what door and camera they're on and be able to teleport to them. If they run by a door, or are hiding by a door at some point, you will see them. This is a lot of free and very powerful information that's just a third of what this add-on does. Honestly, if it just did this, it would still be strong, but it has more to it. The second thing it does is show the numbers of the doors to you floating above them through walls. So if someone's using a camera, you aim your axe and see the Killer Instinct, you'll also know what number door they're on. So why is this important? For the third part of the add-on, which allows you to throw your axe through doors. For those who don't know, when Springtrap or a survivor travels through a door, the doors become linked. So if you teleport from, say, door 1 to door 7, door 1 becomes linked to door 7. However, 7 will not be linked to 1 unless you teleport back through. So if you teleport from 1 to 7, then walk or teleport back to 1, and a survivor is using cam 7, You can throw your axe through door 1 and it will hit them off of cam 7. This isn't super practical or useful, but can lead to some funny moments. The most important thing this add-on gives you is information with the killer instinct and the door numbers. Now, this add-on also has a bit of an awkward downside. Normally, if you throw your axe at a door without this add-on, it'll stick to the door and deactivate the door for survivors, meaning they can't teleport to it or view that camera. However, since this add-on makes your axe travel through, you can no longer do that. So instead, you have to stick your axe to the sides or the back of the door. Nothing super major, but still worth noting. You would think these two add-ons would be super complicated or transformative with a lot going on, but they're surprisingly a lot more simple than both his rare and very rare add-ons. If anything, these will be some of the easiest to explain. Starting with Iridescent Remnant, this add-on makes it so if you start to teleport to a door, all upright pallets within 32 meters of that door are blocked for 12 seconds. Just to clarify, this effect activates as soon as you start the animation of walking through the office and ends when your undetectable is about halfway over, which is slightly before the midway point, assuming you're not running Bonnie's guitar or security badge. This means it gives the survivors a heads up that you're teleporting to them, allowing them to run from you earlier than they otherwise might. For those who don't know, the screen on the door will actually flash when anyone is teleporting from or to that door, survivor or killer. So survivors already know that you're coming, but only if they can see the screen. If your door is around a corner or behind a wall outside of line of sight, they won't know until they hear you come out of the door. However, this add-on will actually notify them early, making it really bad for stealth. However, it's not absolutely terrible, as it can be paired with perks like Blood Favor to make it so survivors can't use any pallets when caught off guard by this add-on. Not my personal favorite, but I don't think it's garbage, it's just alright. I would buff it to not activate until after the TP is completed, but maybe reduce the duration to 10 seconds, and reduce the range to 24 meters maybe. Not sure if that would be overkill. Finally, we have Fazcoin. Luckily, this is easier to explain than Remnant was. Once you throw your axe, it gains a 24 meter terror radius until you recall it. You also gain the undetectable status effect for 10 seconds after you throw it. Unfortunately, terror radius based perks like Starstruck or Chlorophobia don't activate on the axe's terror radius, but this add-on makes you harder to detect by proxy of essentially extending your terror radius as a sort of red herring. It can also be used to remove your red stain in chase when you toss the axe, allowing you to trick survivors into thinking you might have left the chase only to mind game them. Or you could even use it as an on-demand undetectable while walking around the map if you don't have a door close by for you to use. If you hit a survivor with your axe, it'll actually still activate the add-on, giving the survivor a 24 meter terror radius similar to Dark Devotion until they remove the axe or you call it back. It's also very funny when paired with the Axis panel, since you could essentially throw your terror radius through a door and scare people that are probably just chilling on a gen expecting you to teleport to them. Overall, it's pretty strong and very flexible add-on, and it's a lot of fun that works in almost any build with any playstyle. Overall, Springtrap has some of, if not the best add-on design in the entire game in my opinion. The fact that he can build around playing like a basic M1 killer, an M2 projectile chase killer, a stealth killer, or a hyper-mobile killer that's good at controlling gens, while also having a lot of fun gimmick add-ons that allow for silly, unique styles of gameplay is why I love this killer so much. I hope that I was able to show and explain that to you so that you're able to experiment with and discover your own playstyles with him. If you learned something new, or found a build that you really enjoy, leave it in the comments below and I might try it out for myself. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and follow me on both Twitch and Blue Sky. And I'll see you guys in the next one.